Hello and welcome to the vssCollab Read Aloud Challenge. Read aloud for our issue number 2 of In Threads. We have wonderful stories for you guys tonight, and we are super excited to be here. I cannot wait to share these stories with you. So I have the listing of stories up on the screen so that you guys can kind of see which ones will be going in what order. And yeah, I will really quickly share about where you can get your copy of VSS Collab's In Threads. You can go over to vssCollab, and there's a In Threads zine link off of the front page. You can go download your copy, and there's a printable version and then a web version too. So if you wish to print booklet style, you can print your own booklet style, your own booklet if you want. So, and I see a thing in the text and I can't go to the text without switching away from it. So I apologize. I'm going to pause our music and I'm going to get into the first story. I have the first story, which is Among Us, and I have to bring that up. After each story, I'm going to have each author say the end so that we know when a story for sure has ended, just in case there were some changes or tweaks to it. But here we go with the first story. It's Among Us. Matsuo's first encounter with a deadly fox spirit both terrifies and intrigues him. His dad shares a prediction Matsuo will meet one face to face. Will his dad's warning be enough to prevent it? So this is from my Liminal Chronicles series. It's an Asian and urban fantasy story. The content warning is there are some mentions of death, but it's very, very, it's like a quick gloss over. I do have a real quick note for you guys that a kumiho is a dangerous Korean fox spirit, while a kitsune is a Japanese trickster shape-shifting fox. So, and thank you, Phaedra, very much for the resub. Really appreciate it. I'm going to get into the story here. I'll go try to read it at a nice pace, and we'll get into the stories here. So this is Among Us. I'll never forget the night before I turned 6. The sun had set only moments ago. My father said, "Hush." So curtly, I stopped in the middle of the park, stunned. I was the youngest of 3 children and very spoiled. He never spoke that way. But his skin was ashen and his hand shook as he seized my wrist, dragging me out of the playground that jutted up against the forested hills. When we were several blocks away, Father whispered, "Something was back there. Let's stay downtown today. How about we stop at that Western restaurant?" "Za!" I shouted as I skipped and we headed to the pizzeria. Afterward, we trudged home with full stomachs. Whatever it was Dad saw must have left. He wasn't squeezing the blood out of my hand anymore. Food had that comforting magic. My parents sent me to bed early. The warning and argument between them was brewing like a storm on the horizon. "This month's pay was scant enough without you splurging," Mom growled in a half-whisper. Dad's voice trembled. I saw her. My scent was fresh. We had to go somewhere with a strong smell and witnesses. So pizza it was. My mother gasped. She found you? In the morning, I'll visit the priest to get the talismans for you, the boys, and the house. What was so urgent? Why did we need protection charms? My father was not a superstitious man, nor a coward. Would we meet whatever it was again? If it scared my dad, I hoped not. It was a decade and a half before I finally worked up the nerve to ask about the incident. Mentioning it created such a fuss, he refused to talk. Hours later, he whispered, "I was witness to my brother's murder. Do you know what a kumiho is?" When I shook my head, he trembled as he spoke. "A man-eating fox. A soothsayer told me you'll meet a fox spirit one day. Your mother and I, We'll do all we can to prevent that from happening. He often warned me to avoid them. It only made me more curious. That incident was a watermark in my life. I wanted to know what drove the fox spirit, or any yokai for that matter. The way he talked about the Kumiho, I can't believe she was the only one we crossed paths with. When I turned 25, I thought the whole situation was behind me. But last Friday, a respected elder from our town transformed into a fox in front of my friends and me. Suffocating hollowness overtook me. I scrambled backward, right into the wall. Even though I'd grown up around this fox spirit, I was still the proverbial rabbit frozen in place, unable to breathe. She was much more dangerous than a helpless old biddy she portrayed. Yet she didn't heckle or attack. She gave a pithy explanation for hiding among us, confirming there were others. Her enemy was pursuing a friend of mine. My pulse only slowed after she provided enough talismans for each of us to protect ourselves and our families against yokai. Like her. If she was going to kill me and my friends, she wouldn't bother helping us, would she? This kitsune before me wasn't a superstition. She was flesh and blood, a pillar of the community, and beloved for her kindness. Was she different enough from the Kumiho that hunted Dad that he'd understand? Nah, he'd blow a gasket. Dad could not find out that I'd met a fox spirit. Not ever. The end. Hello, Mez. Welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here. And I apologize for it being a little bit more difficult to chat, but I do require people to be here for a while. So yeah. All right. Well, next up, we have The Craft of Exploration by DesdemonaRose. So go ahead, Desdemona, and I will mute myself so that you don't have any echo.
Can you hear me? The craft of exploration. The time has come, Captain Colsey announced to the crowd. We will evolve. We will mitigate the death of damaging technology from Earth. Today, we will celebrate our first significant improvements. We will change the definition of upscale from the resource expensive to the ecologically sound. We will explore our planet by sail instead of drones. Help me welcome the commanders who will lead this adventure with me. Captain Colsey lifted a hand towards the Talithan on his right. Commander Ira Frisia, she, her. Then he shifted his attention to the left. Commander Fern, they, them. The crowd cheered. The loud whistle sounded with them, the harbinger of the journey they were about to embark on. As the crowd dispersed, some came to wish the captain their best. He greeted each one with the proper Talithan greeting, stating his preferred pronouns and acknowledging theirs. He had dedicated 2 soul cycles to this endeavor. Serving the joint effort with them exhilarated him. The hold of the ship was still being loaded with food and other supplies. As the captain walked down the dock, a cart rolled by, close, the wheel barely missing his foot. He looked into the hazel-green, obstinate eyes of Commander Ira Frisia. Before he had time to react, she was past him. Her head of dark curls bounced as she pushed her things into the belly of the ship and disappeared. Behind Ira walked Commander Fern. The juxtaposition of antagonistic to amiable parched his annoyance with Commander Frisia. They had played mediator during the planning stages. It seemed their duties would have to continue. Well, Captain Colsey thought, at least he will keep me from becoming lax. As the crew prepared to leave, the captain walked through the ship, admiring the craftsmanship. He heard a voice when he was in the berthing hall. He recognized the narrator from his favorite audiobook. Curious, he followed his sound. It led him to the open door of Commander Frisia. I didn't know that you liked Marta Andova, the octosyllable poet, Captain Colsey said, surprised. Ira shrugged. It was Fern's recommendation. I am enjoying her work so far. Huh, Colsey said. He distinctly remembered Fern telling him that Andova had made them yawn. He left her to a quatrain about traveling south through Anudum's dense forest. Colsey walked down the hall and through the door that led to his bridge. He checked that all was ready. It was the first sailing voyage for all of Talitha. The equipment usage prior to today had only been experimental. A small doll with blue hair occupied his chair. A touch of home. His youngest sister had insisted that he bring her luckiest toy. At last it was time. The perfect symmetry of the sails caught the wind. The crew pulled the mooring lines from the dock and the anchor from the sea floor. His soul sang with pleasure as he felt the ship catch and drift away from the great city of Anudo. He looked out at the large bridge, the visage of endless blue gratifying. He intended to go on deck soon and inhale the salty air. We will arrive at the island by sunrise, a voice interrupted him. The captain nodded without turning around. The world before him was more interesting. Later, Colsey paused before the door that would lead to the small solar-powered energy backup engine. He knew he would find Ira here. He didn't want his relationship with the commander to be fractured for the entire trip. They had disagreed over the construction of the vessel. The ship was complete. He had to accept that sails without a backup weren't safe enough. He opened the door and found her looking over some blueprints. I see you are fostering knowledge. How astute of you, Iris said. Are you making a record of what everyone on the crew was doing? No, he said. After a pause, he added, I'm just making my rounds. We've been gone for less than a day, Iris said. I can handle the engine maintenance. Maybe Fern needs help to manage the deckhands. He resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Captain, a voice said behind him, giving Colsey's heart a startled leap. We found something on the sonar. Colsey turned, relieved to have something to take his focus. His liaison with Treble would save him from this awkward conversation. Back on the bridge, a large screen showed a massive object floating a little above the sea floor. On the end of it, one end of it was narrow and moved ever so slightly. It must be a sea creature, the captain said. What if it breaks our hull? The worried sailor asked. I suppose that would irk Commander Fern, Colsey said evenly, leaning in on the raw humor he used to combat stress. What will irk me? Fern asked, walking into the conversation. Having a change of seafaring venues, Colsey said, though we might have a fish fry instead. A call went out to the ship through the alarm. Though he only needed a few sailors for defensive measures, he didn't want anyone to miss out on possibly discovering a new creature. At the captain's command, the crew readied the harpoons. It would be easier to serve out their first mission if their vessel remained intact. In time, the arcane creature emerged from the depths, a deep blue fish that was nearly the length of the ship. Colsey grabbed the spyglass off its easel and used it to get a closer look. The dorsal fin had a particular shape. It was a large, flat oval. Short, moss stalks emerged from the top of it. He couldn't imagine their purpose. It was surreal, a creature larger than he'd ever seen, and with such an unusual trait. Please don't shoot, Commander Frisia entreated. The captain waited, on edge, but it seemed the large fish wanted to bond, not fight. Hold your fire, the captain commanded, hoping it was the right call. The clicks of harpoon gun safeties catching filled the air. Then a hush fell among the crew. Even their breathing seemed to stop. The nervous sailor who had originally reported the anomaly broke the silence. It is so beautiful. Yes, Colsey heard Ira sigh, fascination writ in her voice. The creature flexed its massive tail fin and hit the side of the ship with a loud snap. Then, with a deep, airy keen, it swam away. Silence hung in the air until Fern broke it. I think Talitha Harbor just gave our captain a birthday gift. The crew stirred. A crescendo of voices filled the air. The cook clapped her hands loudly to break up the noise. Let's celebrate. I have cake. It will sweeten our evening, along with the captain's birthday and the mysterious sea creature. The cook brought the dessert on deck so the crew could stay on the watch, in case the giant fish reappeared. The captain found himself joined by both of his commanders. Not as risque as your last birthday, Fern commented, but still better. Risque? Ira asked, curious. It surprised Kosei that there was no sarcasm in Ira's voice. Perhaps the giant sea creature is what they needed, something to be of one accord with. Oh, yes, our captain is a surprisingly wonderful dancer, with enough drink, Fern said, grinning. Kosei sighed heavily, as if listening to the conversation was a mental trudge. Don't tell the entire crew that, he said. They might respect my command less. Ira smirked. If it's any comfort, it makes me appreciate you more. Kelsey smiled at her. Thanks. She gave him a warm smile in return. Her face lit up in a way that sent an unexpected glow through him. Oh no, he told himself. Don't make things complicated in the other direction. It had been a wonderful and a long night. The captain slept deeply until the ship's bell rang. He had only managed a scant amount of sleep, but didn't care. The bell signified that they had spotted land. The excitement of the ocean fueled him, more so than even the freshest coffee could. An image of Ira from last night came unbidden. A surprise birthday gift. A surprise birthday kiss. Gifted, brief but warm. Then the memory of her sashaying down the hall, her black curls bouncing with the movement, seemingly pleased with herself. Later, the captain stood on the deck of his ship, overlooking the small island. He watched as his crew explored the island. They would have credit for taking the first steps. He was still enjoying the novelty of his new life as a seagoing Salithan. He saw a face looking up at him and met Ira's eyes. He smiled down at her. Maybe he would dismiss his reservations and explore the sudden shift of harmony between them. And
There we go. Okay, make sure I'm muted or unmuted on both places so that everybody can hear me. Thank you very much. That was very, very enjoyable, Des. Very, very nicely done. I enjoyed editing your story. Thank you. Or I know I didn't get to edit it. I got to look through it as I was putting it in. I was trying to remember whose I edited and whose I didn't. But anyway, yes, we're getting applause. Yay! Oh, yes, I'm glad that they let the sea creature live too. So, just to give you guys a heads up, my family is grilling tonight, and this is about dinner time. So, I will try to speak close to the mic to minimize the sounds, but there will be some. I'll try to mute myself unless I'm reading. So, next up, we have First Impressions by LexiCon, also known as WordiGirl. So, go ahead, read to us, please, Wordy.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? All right. Sorry about that. Thank you. I have to mute or the echo, but I'm about to read. So basically, this is from the world of Secret Agent Someone, and this story is going to be being told from two different perspectives. So there's going to be someone's side and there's going to be Constance's side. But they're together telling a conclusive story. So I'm going to tell who's speaking before I say each section of the story so that it won't be confusing. All right, so I'm going to get started now. Someone. Commander said General Regato had finally come down from his high horse to allow me back into the field without a partner. I had the fortuitous advantage of being one of Will-O-Wisp's highest level agents, so I knew they couldn't keep me benched for long. Constance. Commander called me up, said he had a new partner for me. After Sarah, I wasn't sure if I could get used to another tag-along, but I figured it couldn't hurt to try. Blame it on Bitrot. The file he sent didn't go into detail. We were to meet in person. Someone. He sent me the details of my first mission back in the game. The Ambassador Summit operation. It had a nice flavor. Betrayal, intrigue, secrecy, danger, the whole bit. I was on my way, drifting carefree as a sailboat. Absolutely nothing could dampen my mood. Or so I thought. Constance. He? I asked when Commander let me know the description of my new partner. His hoarse laugh told me something wasn't right. Wouldn't even give me the guy's name. Weird. Sarah's injury was unfortunate. I wasn't in the mood for funny business. Someone. I walked into his office, alias in my head, grin on my face. That quickly faded when I saw her sitting there. I knew exactly what this was. He wanted me to join the little partners club. Not a chance. I hot-footed out of there before either of them could say a word. Constance. One look and his pervasive personality hit me. He was interesting, alluring. I didn't know him, but I somehow already liked him. He was a virus attacking my mainframe. Though he was gone in an instant, I stared at the empty doorway until Commander prompted me to hurry up and go follow him. Someone. This little game wasn't amusing in the least. Whoever she was, I planned to leave her in the dust just as I had with Bruce. I strode down the hall, the sound of her heels gaining on me. I had a backbone and refused to get into this partner business. Partner rubbish. Constance. Tried to flag him down several times. Didn't react until I jumped clean in front of him. Progress, I suppose. He didn't talk, didn't even shake my hand. I caught a glimpse of his sapphire eyes, though, so I followed him. What else should I have done? Someone. Ignoring her best I could, I got into the car and started to mash the lock button when she climbed into the passenger's side. I let out a heavy sigh as I pulled off toward the airport. No matter how fast I went, I felt we were going at a snail's pace because she wouldn't shut up the whole ride through. Constance. I asked him several questions, but he didn't answer. Didn't so much as jump. He was cool, calm, and collected the whole drive to the airport. You would have thought my words had gotten sucked into a wormhole before making it into his ears. Someone. It was clear this woman wasn't getting the hint. She continued asking questions, asking my name. Unimportant, all of it. No reason to discuss such trivial matters. I felt as if I were some specimen studied in microscopy. Simmer down, will you? Constance. I decided to press until I received an answer. When we finally got to the airport, someone. He said I could call him someone or don't call him at all. Okay, this is a bona fide wacko. I stared at the dirt, befuddled for a while before coming back to my senses. Someone. I was somewhat infamous throughout all of Will-O-Wisp, but she hadn't heard of me yet. Perfect. I was holding all the aces. If I played my cards right, I would sweep her under the rug with a broom and never see her again. Constance. Once inside, I quieted down a bit. Still, for some reason, my curiosity continued to grow every time my eyes fell over him. Black suit, green tie, malachite eyes, behavior that stank like a skunk. Why was I so attracted to him? There was something more. Someone. When we found our seats on the plane, I figured she'd run out of power sooner or later. Couldn't have been any less correct. Constance talked and talked and talked until I fell asleep, dreaming of dark, desolate alleys and danger to escape her droning. Constance. He thought he was so superior, I guess, being an elite and all. But I was an elite too, and it really didn't matter what either of us was. If we were going to be stuck together, we were going to make it work. We would change the wrongs to rights as partners. Someone. I awakened and my tranquility vanished. To my dismay, the menace had returned and was apparently here to stay. I thought otherwise. She continued the chat, and I interacted. Only a bit. Conversation was unimportant. Constance. Between the drive and the flight, I worked a few sentences out of him. Enough to call an actual conversation, kinda. My brilliant plan was in effect, and the results were promising. There was now a hole in the privacy fence, through which I smiled hello. Someone. On our way to the hotel, her smile seemed to glow in the light of the golden hour sun. Her eyes were bright, her laugh was quaint. I looked away. What was she even so giddy about? Constance. I studied the fascinating anomaly of a man and began to remember hearing of him. He had will-o-wisp history. Some hotshot. Never had a partner before except one guy he had knocked out cold. Not me. I couldn't let myself wake up washed up on some shore. I'd better keep my guard up. Someone. Volatile? Dangerous. Crazy. I've been called many things, and I didn't give a care, so long as the word wasn't partner. If I was going to be stuck with another agent, I'd call us what we were, obligatory associates. She was nothing more than a limpet, really. Constance. He was devoted to being difficult, trying to order 2 different hotel rooms for us. How suspicious. I stopped him before he could start a scene with the poor clerk in the lilac blouse. I could tell this was going to be a long mission. Someone. She was taking control, leaving her mark, proving that 2 could play the game. Well then, let the games begin. Constance. I called the bed. He didn't even acknowledge it. Instead, he carried on checking the room for bugs like the elite that he was. I'd heard about his crazy side, but this guy was all work, no play. What gives? Someone. This was not going to be a permanent setup. Plain and simple. I was only waiting for the right opportunity to pull the move I worked on Bruce and tidy up this mission at a rate of knots. Constance. He soon reverted back to saying everything was unimportant. Unimportant. The word that shielded him from each and every one of my question darts. Still, I sensed a hint of playfulness right beneath the surface. It was time to make things irresistibly fun. Someone. She had speed and wit, somehow managing to trick me into a fun game. Well, she thought it fun anyway. Constance. Said he didn't drink alcohol, neither did I. Spiced up a sparkling water for the drinking game instead. Got him to notice just how many times he used that annoying word, unimportant. Someone. Her persistence was undoubtedly impressive. Her ability to produce clever responses to my quips in record time took me by surprise. Well, only slightly, however. I'd underestimated her. Constance. I defied all pressure to leave him be. He played the cold role, but I felt something begging me to dig deeper, pulling me in to dance along to his twisted song. And so I did. But I danced my way. Someone. For every point I made, she had a counter. This wasn't how things usually went. In the morning, I'd be better prepared. The mission itself would serve as a level playing field. Soon, the past would be burned to ash, unimportant. The end.
Thank you, Wordy. That was very, very fun. I remember editing that one, and seriously, I was having a hard time not like busting out laughing as I was listening to this one. So thank you. Thank you. That was very, very enjoyable. So I have to text my family so they know I am about to read so that they can try to be quiet. We'll see how things go. I'm going to put my mic just a little bit closer because I think the the stuff on the grill is about done. So we may hear trampling. It's okay. Hopefully things will be okay. So I got to pull up my story here. So I have the next one. It is called Banzai Bonds. So here's a quick summary of it. And I'm going to scoot it over so I can see the stats or the chat here. The summary is, everything goes wrong when Dr. Aya moves from Kyoto to Nonagawa. Worse, he sticks out like a sore thumb. After he walks into the Banzai bar, the barkeep invites him on a hunt. Will the taste of wild game and making a first friend be the key to Dr. Aya fitting into the close-knit, closed community? And this again is from my series Liminal Chronicles. We're talking about Asian urban fantasy. It's a hunting story. So if hunting is not your thing, feel free to mute until we're done. Just wanted to give people a heads up because I don't go into gore, but I don't hold back either, okay? A few real quick notes. Tanuki are raccoon dogs. In Japanese myths, they're known for being trickster, shapeshifters, and friendly drunkards. The story is set in the early 1900s. Okay, here we go. I'm going to take a deep breath real quick, and we'll get into the story. I barely refrained from slamming the store's phone down. It was one of 2 in town. It was bad enough that a landslide forced me to find another house on short notice. Now my belongings wouldn't arrive for several more weeks. Was my move to Nonagawa cursed? With nothing better to do, I strolled skirting the edges of the farming village. My heart sank. Some might call the area quaint, but the farmhouses and fields looked like time stood still. Growing up in Kyoto had spoiled me with its every convenience in high society. How was I supposed to manage a 50-year assignment in this podunk? I'd expected something a little more upscale when they asked me to be the head doctor at the new clinic and take the undercover post for the League of Guardians. Aya, you signed up because Sojibo, king of the Tengu, picked you to serve here. How long would reminding myself of that honor keep me motivated? A few days at this rate. My walk brought me to the main street, a little more than a dirt road. It took less than 10 minutes to traverse. Each store displayed a brightly colored Norin curtain with the shop name and a few characters denoting items sold. I stopped in front of a tile-roofed bar called Banzai, the word people shouted in drinking games. Someone had a sense of humor. Ducking under the Norin, I peeked in. A fellow Tanuki, also in human disguise, greeted me with gusto and talked me into staying for lunch. He introduced himself as Noda. All eyes turned to me. I was the only one wearing a suit. The set meal of grilled meat, rice, pickled cucumbers, miso soup, and sweet egg omelette melted in my mouth. A pang formed in my chest as I savored each bite. It tasted like home. Perhaps the food was a harbinger of civilization. At least your well-stocked local bar and delicious food will mitigate the shock of moving to the middle of nowhere, I said between bites. Noda raised an eyebrow. So what's the most popular activity here in Nonagawa? He brightened. Boar hunting. That these yokels even know how to hunt properly? He must have read my skepticism as he poured sake. Enjoying the meat? I nodded. It's wild boar. Parch your thirst and your curiosity, Aya-san. Join us. The hunts I organize are the most successful. Boar and deer are plentiful. They've become a problem for the agricultural community, destroying the crops and scattering the livestock. We do the farmers a favor. It makes for better harvests, which brings prosperity to our little town. I was ignorant about farming, but I knew how destructive and dangerous a wild boar, let alone a herd of them, could be. As I sipped my tea, he continued, Folks don't like being judged. Just because you're a fancy-pants doctor doesn't mean you're better than we are. I'd bet our regional cuisine will be the key to you accepting us. And us you, in return. Wild boar is excellent, as you can see. People travel from all over to our festival for a taste of how we prepare it. I kicked myself for my snobbery. Noda wasn't educated, but he had a wisdom I lacked. He poured us both several glasses of top-notch sake as he told me his favorite hunts. Though by the time I left, we were both tipsy. I'm not sure how reliable a narrator he was. One thing was certain, his stories reawoke the adventurer in me. The next day, I visited Noda at his bar again, just as it opened. No other customers had arrived yet. I've never hunted, but I miss adventures. Does hiding our magic make the task difficult? Oh, the sparkle of mirth in his eyes. He knew he had me hooked. It adds to the challenge. I'll be there. There wasn't time to travel to the nearest sizable town for proper gear, so I was stuck with the suit I was wearing until my belongings arrived. I'd have to be careful not to ruin it. At least the hardware store had the sturdy split-toe work boots Noda recommended. In the pre-dawn hours, brave souls gathered. Fleshers and Kishu-ken hound handlers formed one group, gun owners in another. I shied away from the over-curious dogs. I could take them out if need be, but it wouldn't gain me friends and it would wreck my suit. The fleshers teased me about not wanting to get my fancy duds dirty. My companions wore simple trousers and flannel shirts. I stuck out again. Unperturbed by the hounds, Noda drew the attention away from me and compared our hunt to the samurai of old protecting crops from roaming boar herds. With sunrise came the gratifying crunch of leaves under our boots. The stout Kishu-ken sprang as they scented the prey, and our first peek at a truly magnificent boar. Fog puffs swirled past his tusks as the creature spied us. Oh, I wanted to return to my new Tanuki farm for the chase, but it wouldn't foster the friendships I needed here in Nonagawa. Humans didn't trust us yokai. We hid among them because of our declining numbers. One hunter raised his rifle and took a shot, but the creature, astute enough to sense danger, dashed behind a boulder. If it had been Noda, he would have used a bit of discreet magic to ensure a hit. My heart pounded as we loosed the hounds and bolted after them. The unity and liaison of the hunting party was perfect. Spotting the boar, I almost leaped for joy as I pointed and Noda aimed. But another gunshot erupted before he squeezed the trigger. The lack of a break and turn from my fellow Tanuki irked me. I said so under my breath. Noda simply shrugged. There'll be more quarry. What's important is helping those who can't afford meat, like these fellows with us, and protecting the crops. Everyone helps to haul out the carcasses and split the bounty. Later, I'll show you how to cook it to perfection. Near the end of the day, we descended the mountains. I pointed out a boar trampling and rooting up a sweet potato field the farmer hadn't harvested yet. All that hard work and food gone to waste turned my stomach. With a minute touch of magic, Noda aimed. Crack! The beast fell. We hollered that Noda had a hit before rushing towards the beast. My new friend's ear-to-ear grin was the only confirmation I needed. We saved the farmer's livelihood, and it made me stand a little taller. I clapped my companion on the back and said, "Well, expert sniper, you teach me how to shoot?" A wicked gleam entered his eyes. "Only if you clean the kill." A test. I waved away his teasing. I'm a doctor. Easy. That day we bagged 3 boars. I kneeled to clean the first boar and winked at the fleshers who had teased me earlier. See, I'll even do the dirtiest job today. The gesture earned me a series of grateful nods. It took all of us to haul the heavy beasts back to the truck. Noda promised the group he'd fry some of the meat with his secret recipe for the festival. A great venue for people to try the wild boar. He asked if I wanted to help. If I was going to live in this small town, I'd need to be a part of each aspect, not sulk about missing Kyoto. So I heartily agreed. After that, I went on every hunting trip. My new friends taught me to fly fish and talked me into joining the planning committee for the rowdy Flying Float Festival. Those bonds saved my career. People had warned me a small town can be hard to break into, but when I embraced the place and its customs, folks slowly accepted me in return. To thank Noda for helping me find a common thread with the community, I invited him for dinner and served several arcane recipes from my great grandmother. We drank late into the night. He taught me that traditions and pitching in with your whole heart bind a community together. Now, I consider him a brother. The end. So, if you guys are wondering, yes, I did get to try wild boar when I went to Japan. This is why I was writing about it. It was really yummy. So, and I don't know how to describe it because it was in a miso soup. So, anyway, there you go. That is Banzai Bonds. We have one more. It is Daily Journal written by George Sanders, but Wordy has kindly volunteered or kind of got voluntold asked to read it. So take it away, Wordy. Okay, while we're waiting for Wordy to come back, I will plug the in thread one more time. I printed up a copy of it, but we did release in threads issue number 2 today. So we have these stories in it that we're reading aloud. So I will be quiet now so we don't hear echo. Today, so we have these stories in it that we're reading aloud. So I will be quiet now so we don't hear echo.
Sorry, hello, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I am going to read George's story, The Daily Journals. And bear with me. This is going to be my first time reading through it, but it does look interesting. Hopefully I don't butcher any names. Okay. Daily Journal by George Sanders. This is from the Aloud Wildlands, and it's a fantasy. When I first moved north to the Aloud Woodlands, sorry, it seemed like something went wrong every day. I kept a daily journal of the challenges. Now, starting a new job, I needed to do it again. I first moved north to the woodlands. It seemed like something went wrong every day. I kept a daily journal of the challenges. Eventually, things got a little easier, and writing about it helped. I'm going to try to help run a shop that I know nothing about. I have resolved to write about challenges and do the best job I can. I owe Sufili that for rescuing me and my family. Day 1. The carpenter didn't do upscale, but his work was solid. He asked how much weight would be on the shelves so he could mitigate any problems. I didn't know how much a dragon foot bone weighed, so I tossed it to him. I hope he comes back. Day 2. The lovely lady from the dry grocer came by to drop off ground coffee. She was checking out the mushrooms and picked up the bad ones. You know, the harbingers of doom. Yelling, "That is your doom, not food," may have been too much. Day 3. The bald caravan driver was asking for payment, but the boss had not left any coin. I told him, "I can't foot the bill, but we do have this hair tonic." Phew, another miss. I looked at the plant growth label hidden in my hand, unsure what the consequences would be. Day 4. Burnt sage crumbled. I reread the instructions the boss left. Rush order! Parch the sage by tying it upside down at least 2 feet above the fire. Keep steady, low heat going for 8 hours. Juxtaposition of rush order and low heat tripped me up. Day 5. 1 small block of pink sea salt. Bag of used coffee grounds. A dozen corn cobs. Can I have those eggshells too? The mushrooms in the basement have a unique cuisine, but that calcium is key. Oh, we don't eat them. They are sentient and work for us. Day 6. You become a narrator when your workmates are little mushrooms and cats. The cats are my favorite, but I have to admit they interrupt a lot, and I serve them. The mushrooms are amazing little workers. Oh, I love them both. Day 7. The man at the market stall must have thought I had 3 heads the way he was looking at me. Talking an octosyllable. Recommend it for exercise. I heard it will make your brain big. Please place 2 apples in my bag. Day 8. 1 water bucket into the pot. 2 carrots picked today. 3 logs to make it hot. 4 sprigs of sage for a bouquet. I repeated it as I left the market. It's okay. I'm reciting quatrains now. My boss said to practice so the magic doesn't go south. Day 9. Mrs. Heim read the usage label. Toss a leaf in each of the cardinal directions, and take a bath with a 5th leaf in your home. Yes, my boss is young, but the recipe is from the herbalist primer. No side effects. I'm sure it will work. Once Mrs. Heim left, he asked what the ritual was. His eyes got big as I tried to explain quantum symmetry breaking involved in balancing the soul. Oh wait, that was the next page. She just needed a luck potion. Day 11. Mr. Nettlemimer knocked after sunrise. No, you cannot buy a cravat here. You want the clothing shop, 3 doors down. I watched to make sure he arrived. It was gratifying to hear Jocelyn greet him. That was good. Today's goal, no scared customers. Day 12. The boss said to foster a positive work environment for the mushrooms in the basement. They can't talk, but she said they were astute. They can understand what you say to them. They waddle when they walk, and their caps look like cute, oversized hats. Day 13. The cats run the place. I opened the door to the boss's bedchamber, and the cats raced to find the best spot on the bed. Their palates are so particular, they act like gourmets. I'm preparing fish every other day of the week. Yeah, they are spoiled. Day 14. Goat heart? No. You need the butcher's shop. That is the next building up the street. Phew. When is the shop's sign getting delivered? The liaison from the city said it would be with the next caravan. I'll have to make something in the meantime. Day 15. Ouch! I'm going to break my toe walking past this apple crate. It irks me that I'm so clumsy. Ouch! Again? Okay, crate, we need to have a talk. The crate scurried to the corner of the shop on 4 legs. A pair of eyes looked up at me. It seemed sorry. Day 19. I thought I had developed a strong bond with the mushrooms in the basement. I expected them to move a little faster as I entreated them to clean up the bits of rat used for fertilizer. This isn't all games and fun, guys. Day 20. Is that smell coming from your basement? Sage from the garden that could fix that. Am I your youngest customer? Did you hear Pumpkin found my teddy bear? How many of those seeds are you going to count out? All that from a precocious 6-year-old customer. Yes, I told her to hush. Day 21. It was good to get away from the shop. The breeze brushed past me, lifting leaves on the trees. I could close my eyes and breathe deep. I was already feeling better. I was confused and concerned by the customer asking for za. I had no idea what it was. Day 22. As my partner and kids ate the birthday cake, they turned pink, then teal. I kept my head down until they called me out. It must have been Moon Pie the cat. While I stirred the batter, I turned away for just a second. I bet he knocked some powder into the pot. Day 23. The 2 women that run the bathhouse were always teasing me to try their services. I fell today just outside the shop. They ran to my rescue and were sweet. I should not have judged them for their risque behavior. They are coming over for tea later. Day 24. With the tea brewing, I looked outside. I saw my foster daughter walk by with Will. He's a good-natured boy. I leaned my head out of the door. A fly on the wall. She was trying hard not to look too enamored. I wonder, will it be a fling or something more? Day 25. I trudged home after a long day at the shop. My partner could see it on my face. I know you have had good days, and you love the new job, but Sufili said you could set the hours. Pace yourself, right? I nodded. She handed me a warm compress. Day 26. The thieves left scant evidence. The loot they snatched gave me a big clue. A sachet swiped from a box on the top shelf. I needed that dried catnip for a tonic. Mrs. Feldman had a baby that was colic. Moon Pie, Pumpkin, where are you cats hiding? Day 27. Breathe in, breathe out. Today I met with the mayor. It's okay. Only an urgent meeting of critical importance. Breathe in, breathe out. You have been doing this for 27 days. This is just another day. She is bringing the components for you to use. All good. Day 28. 3 sprigs of rosemary, paste of honey and woundwort, a bunch of scary components from the mayor. I didn't want to ask, so in the pot they went. Something about cognitive vitality. Once it was reduced, I filled the mold. She said, "Excellent work, Hannah." "Hannah, I'm back," Sufili called. "I like the new sign." A potion was brewing in the kettle. The mushrooms were busy in the basement. Moon Pie purred loudly to greet Sufili. "Looks like everything went smoothly." Hannah was asleep at the desk in the back office. The end. Sorry for any errors, but that was quite a fun story to read.
Yeah, you did very well. Way better than I would have. So excellent job. And that was another one I got to edit. It was just really, really fun. I seriously appreciate everybody reading and sharing their stories and allowing their stories to be put into our copy of In Thread. So if you guys haven't gone to go get a copy of it, I will share one more time where you can go get it because it's free and they're great stories. There's one that we didn't get to share because it was in the world of another author. And we had permission, but not permission to share on Twitch. So thank you guys very, very much for sharing, for allowing me to share your stories, for sharing them on Twitch and on Twitch and on Twitter, and being a part of the VSS collab where we get to help each other and share our little bits of stories. My family is eating, and I am anxious to go get some food because I haven't got to eat yet. But we will go raid. I think we'll go raid Haley Creates today. So thank you, everyone who came to listen and joined us. Thank you, Mez. I got to see you and Clockwocket and just everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. I'm going to set up our raid. If you guys don't know my raid shout, it is Magical Tales. You can copy pasta that or edit it or use your own raid shout when we go. It's totally up to you. I'm going to set up the raid here. Haley. Oops. Lee. Make sure I spell it right. I'm sorry. I have to go double check how to spell Haley's name. I know it's a little bit different. Yeah. Hayley. Okay. Hayley Creates. We're setting up our raid. Thank you again for being here with us, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We'll keep writing our stories and sharing them and read alouds about every quarter when we publish our In Threads zine. Feel free to join us on the vssCollab. It only takes 2 tweets in a thread to make a story, and you can share it in the zine. So, we are ready to go raid. I will see you guys Monday, 9:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time for a write-in. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.